All right, so right here we have the Dlux Superlite Berg axles. These are an MOA axle specific for MOA crawlers. Dlux sells these completely assembled. They are the only vendor, to my knowledge right now, other than RC 4-wheel drive, offering complete axle assemblies. These are, in my opinion, the best of the best as far as instant buy, already assembled, everything that you need, add a pinion and a motor and to get driving. They're based off the ultra strong Berg platform, and overall just have all the goodies in one place. So the rear axle, which I'm holding right now, completely assembled, runs $325 retail right off their website. DluxFab.com is going to be their website. And then you're going to have the front axle here. The front axle can be configured a few different ways. Basically, you can pick your knuckle options out here. You can do a full brass or aluminum. And then you can add the tungsten slugs here. You'll see at the end they've got it drilled here, and you can add tungsten slugs. The aluminum knuckle includes a brass insert on the bottom and then aluminum up top. Pretty simple and straightforward. Like I said, completely assembled. Their lead time says 2 weeks on the website. However, when I ordered mine, I think they shipped in a day. So was super stoked on that. It's been a while since I've had a set of axles on hand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these apart to get a little bit more in-depth of a look. I've never taken these apart before. Hopefully this camera angle is a good view. Hopefully the quality is all right for you guys. Open to suggestions. So as you're watching this video, if you have some questions, concerns, or just want to know more information, hit me up and we will address those. But for now, we're going to go ahead and we're going to start with taking apart the rear axle. Things that I noticed right away is we've got a carbon fiber piece here that looks like it's holding two bearings. There's a little 3D printed spacer in here. Something that I thought was really cool. Traditionally in the past, you'd always break CVD pins. This guy uses a monster CVD pin here, and then it's captured inside by a grub screw. So that's pretty darn handy in itself. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start by taking apart the rear axles. I've got the MIPs here. MIPs, in my opinion, are the best of the best when it comes to RC tools. And then I've got these cool little covers here that tell me what size they are, because I'm not a big fan of the heat shrink. So we'll start by taking off the grub screws. There's one there. I'll take apart the other one. I've got this camera resting on the table, so hopefully it's not too shaky for you guys. All right, gotta push that pin out now. It is a super tight fit, so I might grab another tool here. Here we go. We can work on pushing that out. So there's the axle pin. You can see how big that guy is. Pretty nice, because we were always snapping the small ones. And then from there, the hub comes right off. So things to note is you can actually order different width hubs as well to accommodate different wheels or width requirements and what you're trying to do. There's pluses and minuses to how narrow a car is or how wide it is. Obviously, we gotta fit between two specific gates. So you got to play with that width a little bit. There are width requirements within the comp rules, so keep that in mind as well. The rules are listed on our website under the WRRCA rule set there. So take a look at those whenever you want. Also to note, nice aluminum axle here. So these two screws on the end, looks like they have a washer. Nope, they're just a nice nice cap head screw are going to be holding 2 bearings in. It comes with standard bearings. In the future I might upgrade these to ceramic, but for now it's great. Look at how large the tang is on these things. Tang is monstrous. Move that one aside now. There's really no reason for me to take this axle apart, to be quite honest with you, but I wanted to just take a peek at it, educate you guys on the process. So again, another big old aluminum axle shaft, big old fatty tang. These things are crazy lightweight too, wow. So the link mounts can be removed. They are not adjustable, but they can be removed, so keep that in mind. Now we're gonna go ahead and take off this aluminum plate here. I did read somewhere that these potentially, so things to note here, that's a short screw I just took off. That one I knew it was going to be a long one because of that spacer. And then that spacer probably wants to fall inside, so we'll just need to keep in mind that that might come out. Another short screw. So this bottom screw is a little bit in the way of the link mount, so I went ahead and grabbed a ball driver here. Alright, take those off. I think there's a shim. Yeah, there is. So there's a shim on the shaft right here. So you can see that these are captured. Nice tight fit. They got a little flange here to keep them from coming off. So once you screw these on, the bearings stay nice in place. Pretty sweet little system there. So yeah, there is 2 washers here. Be mindful of not losing those. Let's see how else. So now this lower section here is also 3D printed. So I'm gonna pop this guy off. Now we have access to the main gears here. So Dlux also makes all these gears in-house. Super nice and clean. Ooh, that is in there tight. So you can see that they got a pin in the bottom there. What's nice is you can buy replacements if you need to. Let's see if this one will come out yet. So that one is hidden by the tube here. So there's that little 3D print piece, the shim that goes up here. We'll pull that off. And we'll loosen these here. So those are longer than the other ones, so we're going to put those to the side. And I'm sure you can Loctite these. I never recommend using anything other than blue Loctite in a very small amount. All right, so that piece comes off. You can see how nice the machine work is on these tubes. Super, super duper clean stuff. Nice clean machining. Beautiful. Pull that aside. Now this gear can come off. It's a little bit rascally. Oh, I see. So it's got a pressed in bearing there. So I'm also, when I'm pulling that off, it looks like I'm also fighting that bearing a little bit. And I'm fighting the locker as well. So, pull that bearing off. Okay, there we go. So there is a little bit of pre-assembled gear grease here. So that's good to keep note of. So that's basically it. I'm not going to take the tubes off because it's pretty much self-explanatory. Upper link mount goes all the way through the case here. Nice thick mounting area there, super heavy duty. So that is going to be our rear axle. Gonna go ahead and put this bad boy back together, and we'll move on to the front side. So that was the disassembly and the reassembly of the rear axle. For those of you who are curious what the heck the weight is on this guy, looks like 174 grams for the rear axle, so not bad at all. Okay, so we are back at it now. Just finished off the rear axle here from Dlux. We're gonna work on the disassembly of the front now. Again, I'm just simply doing this for educational purposes, more so than anything else, showing you guys the inner workings of these axles. The front of a Pro is obviously a lot more complicated than the rear. I would also like to note that there is a version of a crawler that we competitively comp with. Is called a Super, and typically in a Super, instead of having a short side and a long side, you would have two long sides, and in addition to that, typically some guys run two servos as an option as well. The tires are much bigger, the chassis are bigger, everything about it is super in size. So that is what that entails. But right now this is a 2.2 MOA axle. With the axle here, as I noted, you have weighted knuckles. A thing to note here is Dlux also builds in a steering stop. The benefit of the steering stop is exactly that. It's intended to do what it's called as stop the steering. If you steer too far, you will hyperextend these joints here and you will break them. So they give you predetermined stops here. They can be adjusted. You can add another spacer and limit them even farther. But basically right now at full turning, which is crazy, mind you, this steering angle is just wild. Typically once you mount a tire here, this tire is already going to be interfering with the chassis link oftentimes, and so that would be why you would want to add spacing here, is to decrease the steering even further. I've got a little note here. I don't know if it tells us. Yeah, so it looks like their website doesn't tell us the max steering angle, at least on the tube part of it, but not super important at this point in time. But just take my opinion that's a lot of steering. Additionally, they make a set of weight hangers that bolt to the front of this guy here and hang down even further. The idea behind crawling is adding weight up front is going to give you forward traction bite, if you will. It's going to bite down on the rocks. Weight is sometimes often used as a band-aid for poor tuning. So I highly recommend trying to build a somewhat light vehicle and then adding weight to where it makes sense. And with the Dlux, you have the ability to add a ton of weight. Like I said, they offer these in a brass version. This whole chunk here will be brass, and this top plate will be brass too. So we're gonna go ahead and start by simply removing the steering knuckles from the axles. What's really cool is they use these huge bearings right here, and then the top and bottom plate capture the C-hub, which is super nice because now you have all that load on that bearing. Old school options would be these little teeny bushings that would oftentimes wallow out and break. Now we have a rebuildable bearing in here, which is super nice to have. So what we're going to do here is we're going to pull off the steering link, and then we'll get after it here. See if I can find my tools over here off camera. Alright, so I got this little guy here. If you haven't seen this, this is a tool by J Concepts. It's a 5.5 on one side and a 7 on the other. Just a handy little wrench. Use them quite a bit in the racing world to get to shock nuts. Just handy in general. So note that there was a washer on the bottom side. So everyone has different verbiage on what these are called. Typically the long one's going to be a drag link, and this is going to be this will be the drag link, and then this is going to be the tie rod. I don't claim to know all the fancy terminology. I have just enough in my brain to be dangerous. So it looks like that side is potentially longer. Nope. I just don't know how to use tools today. So being that these axles are not entirely sealed, if you do find yourself crawling in water, which some guys are cringing right now, but if you're from the Northwest, you're going to purposely create gates around water and or in water. Water is going to be able to get inside these. I recommend using a nice marine style grease, and then just general rule of thumb, servicing your axles every once in a while. So just like the front axle, we have a grub screw inside the hub itself. It's a 2.5 millimeter little grub screw. Pull that guy out. Another one. Sorry, I've noticed my table is a little bit wobbly, so I'm trying to hold these axles in the air to prevent the wiggling as much as I can. And this one here has got kind of a mushroom on the tip here, so it might take a little bit of convincing. So MIP, hopefully you're not watching me hammer this out. Yeah, that guy is in it to win it. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna cheat it. We'll worry about it later. I don't want to just bang on the table here just because I'm filming. So what I'm gonna do is just take the top of the knuckle off. So like I said, this is captured by that bearing. Super tight tolerances, which for a steering knuckle, I am not going to complain because you want this to be as tight as possible. Alright, so there's that bearing. You see it slides right over their C-hub. So their C-hubs are a 0 degree. On this side here, you'll notice it uses a countersunk screw, so it obviously doesn't interfere with anything, slides right over the rocks. I'm gonna move this camera just a little bit, bear with me. All right, so there's the bottom part, brass, and again, the captured flange bearing. And then from here, look at how beefy this steering shaft is. Absolutely incredible. So this is what we call a universal style, typical of what you would see in a real rock crawler. Some RC cars have a CVD too, but the CVDs are known to not nearly be as strong. Then you've got a bearing on either side of the knuckle as well, and these guys, they're huge bearings. This outer bearing is absolutely massive. Anyway, so we got the updated cover here, and then the motor inspection cover here. This cover is going to allow you to easily remove and install the motor, as well as adjust the pinion mesh. And see, it's super easy there. This axle is rather different compared to the rear. Two different styles here, two different functions. This side has got an aluminum bearing capture, where this side is carbon fiber, aluminum rear upper link mount, carbon fiber here. But all in all, still very similar. Take off the inspection cover here. There is gonna be shims, just like the rear. This bottom front screw is longer than the other three. It goes all the way through the case. And this is an updated design. I know the older front axles, this part was carbon fiber. They have since gone to aluminum. Again, there's two shims here, so I was careful to keep those on there. Oops, so there's my light. There's one down here. Put that back on real quick. So the thing that I love about these axles is they're just butter smooth. So that's full lock one direction. No binding, super buttery smooth. It is very, very, very nice. So just like the rear axle, it's going to use the same locker design up inside here. I'm not going to take the tubes off on this version because it is very similar, but basically to get this section of tube off, you've got two more screws here. It's 3 screws that holds it together. It shares this one, and then 2 up top. This whole tube comes off. And then from there, once you can get to the screws to take this tube off here. So in order to take the long side off, you do have to take the short side off, but that's not a big deal at all. You can see this piece here is really nice. They keyed it. See if they got the top and bottom keys, so it's gonna snap in quite nicely when you put it back together. Super nice. And then simply reassemble. So the benefit of these axles is being that they're a Berg style, there's several manufacturers that make chassis for it. Dlux makes a specific chassis. There's a Whitetown chassis. Whoops, that's going to be the long screw. Hitman Fab. What is it, like Barry's Customs? There's probably 10 manufacturers. If you go on to ProRCCrawler.com, there's a section that's called like what to buy, where to buy, and that's going to outline everyone that makes chassis. If you are a vendor and you're not on that list, just message us and we will get you added on there. But the cool part is Dlux makes bolt-on link sets for I think 4 or 5 different other chassis. So I'm using the 5th Dimension Dominator chassis, and I was able to buy both front and rear axles and the link set for the chassis directly from their website. Back in the day, you know, we were making our links. We were buying titanium links from Lunsford, bending them ourselves, using Delrin all thread covered with Delrin sleeves, brake line. It was just too much for it. Now, new to the hobby, you can buy a link set and it gives you the exact wheelbase within the rule specs, handles all that stuff for you. So in a lot of ways, this hobby is much easier, much easier than it has been in years past. So you can see if you ever have to make a trail repair, how easy all this is. The axle also comes with several different battery configuration mounts. So when I get into the build process, you guys will be able to see all that stuff as well. Put this back together here. So this is more just kind of education, showing you guys what makes up a MOA axle. We're gonna start doing some assembly of the wheels and tires here shortly. I just did a video on the chassis itself. If you haven't watched that, it was the second video that we posted on the channel. Definitely go check that out. So this was fun. GoPro overheated and shut off again, so we're gonna speed this process up. 2 screws to go. Well, technically 4. I got the grab screws as well. Not super stoked on the GoPro 11's overheating performance, considering I'm inside where it's air conditioned. Really curious to see how it's going to perform out on the rocks. Alright guys, so there you have it. There are the Dlux front and rear MOA axles, disassembled, quick overview. Again, you can get them at DluxFab.com for all of your goodies there. Dlux really has everything. They are a one-stop shop. If you're just looking, they also have complete cars ready to go. Full kits, add your electronics, and get things rolling. Make sure to like and subscribe if you can, please. All the support is much appreciated. Just looking to educate people and bring more awareness to our side of the hobby. But that is going to be it for this one. See you guys out on the rocks.
Ça tue, ça blesse, ça flingue. Hey, hey, hey. Gazo.